Hello, my sweet remote friends. This video is going to go over one of the first activities in our compare and contrast project that we were working on with our animals and the animal profile biographies in that green packet that you hopefully at this point already read through. If you have not, don't worry, after this video is done, you should read through it. In the packet, you'll notice that the first page has two different reptiles. The second page, the back of the first page, has two different birds, and then the third page has two different arachnids, which is a fancy schmancy term for spiders. So, in the materials that I sent home for you, you will see a Wild About Figurative Language page where it has sections for similes and metaphors 2 times. Okay, one at the top, one at the bottom. I already have writing in mind. You'll see what it is in a second once we get there. This activity will have you picking 2 of those animals that you read about. So either the 2 reptiles, the 2 birds, or the 2 arachnids. Because whichever 2 you pick, and it must be 2 of the reptiles or 2 of the birds or 2 of the arachnids, whichever one, you need to base your whole project around those 2, okay? So for example, if I was a 6th grader doing this project, say I picked the 2 birds, Simon and Shadow. So that is what I'm going to base all these different parts of this compare-contrast project on. Once again, like I said, the first official part of this project, we're going to be doing a simile and a metaphor activity. Now remember, we were really focusing on simile and metaphor last week as well as the week before, since we've been talking about different parts of, or different types of figurative language. So, if I picked Simon and Shadow, what I would do is brainstorm a simile to describe anything that I learned about Shadow, as well as a metaphor to describe anything I learned about Shadow, okay? And then what I'd also have to do is to come up with a simile that describes something I learned about Simon and a metaphor that describes something I learned about Simon, right? Because you're doing a simile and a metaphor for both of the 2 animals you choose, okay? So for this, what I had the kids in class do was grab a sheet of loose leaf paper, and I had them fold it the long way, and then draw a line down the crease. Drawing it down the crease helps make sure it stays nice and straight if you're someone who likes very straight lines. And then I also had them fold down the short way. And then once again, I had them use the crease to draw a nice straight line, because this is like a rough copy page. Now in the top, you're going to write simile, metaphor, simile, metaphor. Well, excuse me, simile at the top, metaphor at the bottom, simile at the top, metaphor at the bottom. I suppose if you wanted, you could also do simile, metaphor, simile, metaphor. That is okay too, all right? So once you get that filled in on your page, simile, metaphor, simile, metaphor. So remember, we have to do 1 for each animal. You are then going to label one of the similes with one of your animals. Like I said, my example is the birds. That's what I'm just going to pretend I'm choosing if I was a 6th grader doing this project. So I would write the name of one of the birds under simile, and then that same bird under metaphor, because remember we have to do a simile and a metaphor for one of them, and then a simile and a metaphor for the other. So under the other simile, I'll write the other bird, Shadow. Under the metaphor, I'll also write Shadow. If you picked the 2 reptiles, Timmy and Nagini, you would write Timmy, Timmy, Nagini, Nagini, okay? If you picked the arachnids, you would write Aragog, Aragog. And then, well, the rose hair doesn't have a name yet, so you could write rose hair, okay? Because we need to come up with a simile and a metaphor for one, and a simile and a metaphor for the other. Now I'm going to show you an example of a simile and a metaphor that I came up with to describe Simon. You may not use my examples. I tell the kids in class this as well, all right? This is just kind of to help you get your wheels turning. It is not something that you are going to use yourself because they're the ones I came up with. It's like I copyrighted them, okay? So my simile example that I came up with, Simon is as colorful as a bag of wild berry Skittles and vibrant as a rainbow. I actually put two similes in one. Okay, and remember, a simile is using like or as. So I'm comparing how colorful Simon and his feathers are to a bag of colorful wild berry Skittles. And vibrant is just a word that means like beautifully bright and colorful and like radiant looking. And since that's how I see Simon, I then also compared how vibrant he is to how vibrant a rainbow is. Okay, and so I wrote that in the simile section. Just like whatever simile you come up with for your first animal, you will write in that box, okay? But I'm not done with Simon yet. Remember, I still have to come up with a metaphor for him. And remember, a metaphor is a little more dramatic. Remember how I said that similes and metaphors they're kind of like twins? One's a little bit more of a chillax twin, right? Similes, they're a little more relaxed. They'll make comparisons by using like or as. Oh, she is fast like a cheetah. She swims as quick as a dolphin. But a metaphor, they're the slightly more dramatic, blunt twin. So instead of saying like or as, the metaphor will say, she is a cheetah, or she is a dolphin when she swims, okay? So since I used like or as in the simile for Simon, now I need to come up with something else to describe on his body, okay? I already talked about how colorful he is, so let's think of something different now. And I need to compare him by using a metaphor. So let's see. I came up with how loud he is because I shared in class how he will sometimes screech and squawk very, very loudly, okay? So if it was a simile, I would say Simon is as tremendously loud as a train or a locomotive, but it's a metaphor, so we can't say like or as. So instead, what I chose to put, because I'm comparing how loud he is to a locomotive, I wrote, Simon is a tremendously loud locomotive when he screams and squawks. Okay. So now I need to come up with something for Shadow. I need to do the same thing I did with Simon with the simile and metaphor, and now do it for Shadow, okay? I'm not going to do that in real time with you because I think at this point you probably get the gist, and I don't want to ramble on for too long because I see we're already at 8 minutes. So what I really would like for you guys to do is come up with this little graphic organizer on loose leaf, because guess what? Before you do a final copy of something, it's great to get your writing and your thoughts out beforehand. So you're not writing and changing your mind and then erasing and then rewriting and then maybe changing your mind again and then rewriting again when it comes to the final copy page, because this is the final copy page. This is eventually where you are going to write both of your simile and metaphors for each animal, okay? Now, I'm going to hold up mine to show you what it will eventually look like. Across the top, you'll see a blank line. Well, that's where you put the name of one of your two animals. Remember, I picked the two birds. So I wrote Simon. And then look, in very nice, neat handwriting, because it is the final copy version, I wrote in the simile that I came up with for him. And then I wrote the metaphor that I came up with for him. And then guess what I'm going to do at the bottom? Whatever simile and metaphor I came up with on my rough copy for Shadow, I will write in super nice, neat handwriting down here, okay? Do you think you should be spelling the names of your animals correctly? Yeah, you have a packet full of correctly spelled information in front of you. So make sure that if you're using words that are found in that packet, you spell them correctly. Also, since you're working virtually at home, you can probably cross-check your spelling as you type. You could type it into a Google Doc, and sometimes it fixes the spelling for you. So that would be a way for you to know. who can you also ask? You could send me an email or ask me a question over Google Classroom. I'd be happy to help you out, okay? So when you are all done filling in all of this writing, I told the friends in class that they can decorate a pretty border, pretty colorful border with designs all around the outside. So you may do that as well if you like. Do not color over the writing, okay? And then when this is complete, I'm going to ask that you take a picture and email it to me so I can see your completed work, okay? I'm really, really excited to see what you guys come up with. Work hard, and I hope this is fun for you. Bye.